Okay, so I'm going to show you both the board and the calculator. What we're going to do is we're going to look at how can we use our calculator so we don't have to perform these long-winded calculations where we have to type in heaps of gear. So pull your calculators out and follow along. We're going to go first into graph mode. We're going to sketch the function y equals x squared. Could be any function. Okay, you can sketch any function you like. I've got y equals x squared. Okay, so we graphed it. There's a pretty, I think that's the initial V window I've got. Maybe you've got the standard one. But we're going to change one of our settings. You may already have it turned on, but we're going to change one of our settings and we're going to leave this one on for the rest of the year. This is an important one. So we press Shift, Menu. That's going to bring up all of the options. And scroll down your list until you see Derivative. All right, your list has a few more functions than mine. I'm using the old software. And where it says, yours probably says off, switch it on. I want it to say on. I want the derivative turned on. Okay? Once it's on, we'll just exit out of that. Enter, execute, equals. And all we're going to do is trace along, because I just want to show you. As I'm moving along the function, right, I've got the x value, I've got the corresponding y value, but now I've got the dy on dx value. It tells you the slope at that point. So here's one way you can determine the slope really quickly, is by graphing it and then just inputting the x value you're concerned with. When x is 2, the slope is 4. All right, so that helps for some of the more complex ones. We can access it from our graph. Our graph is useful because we're often looking at the graphs, but we can also access it in RunMat. So I'll take you there. If we go into RunMat, we go Option. Let me just check this one. Calc d on dx. I'll write that up. Option, Calc d on dx. All right. What this will allow you to do is input the function you want to differentiate and the x value you want to know at that point. Okay? So you input original f of x and you input x value you're concerned with. All right? Do not input the derivative function. The calculator is going to differentiate it for you. Okay? So they're the two things I wanted to show you on the calculator. All right, the second thing, and these skills, we're going to keep coming back to them. I'm going to keep pointing them out. All right. The second thing is this. This is popping up a little bit, right? It is find when it's undefined, find when it's equal to 0. So this is something we learn in year 11 when we're talking about functions. But if we have what's called a rational function, rational comes from a ratio, it's expressed as a ratio, one function divided by another. We would use the quotient rule to differentiate that, right? And I'm going to try and be really clear about what's u and what's v. The function is going to equal 0 when the top is 0. Why is that? Well, 0 divided by any number is always 0. If you have 0 cakes divided by any number of people, everyone's getting 0. Everyone's missing out on that cake. And then the function is going to be undefined if the denominator is 0. Because if we're going to divide any number of cakes by 0 people, it doesn't make any sense. You can't do it. And in fact, I can even show you a really cool thing of what happens when we do try and divide by 0. If you put in your calculator right now, 1 divided by 0, does anyone know what's going to pop up?
Syntax error.
No, it's not a syntax error. It is undefined. It pops up math error, all right? And what it means is undefined. Syntax error means you've typed something in wrong. That means there's something wrong with your input. Math error means there's something wrong with the maths, such it's undefined. And so you might go, well, I can't divide by 0. Let's divide by something close to 0. This is really interesting. Watch this. 0.1 is pretty close to 0. If I do 1 divided by 0.1, what's that evaluate to? 10. What about 1 divided by 0.01? 100. Okay, we can start to see a pattern here, 1,000. As I get closer and closer, this number's getting larger and larger and larger. It's approaching infinity. So you might just say, well, any number divided by 0 is going to be infinity. Okay, but let's go from the other direction. What happens if I go 1 divided by minus 0.1? Minus 10, minus 100, minus 1,000. As we get closer to 0 from the positive direction, we go on a positive infinity. And as we get closer to 0 from the negative direction, we get to negative infinity. These are getting further and further apart as they get closer and closer. What the hell is going on? Undefined. All right, that's why we can't divide by 0. So, pretty interesting, but that's the important takeaway from it. Cool, let's proceed with